Everybody, this is it, everyone. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Mr. Men book reading 100, the third person version of Mr. Christmas. Okay, I know it's a book I've already done before. Well, the last time it was in the first person. This time it's in the third person. It's a challenge and a half. It's been a challenge and a half, this, and I'm going to keep on doing it. So good luck, and here I go. In Mr. Christmas's snow-covered cottage at the South Pole, he was having his breakfast. Christmas pudding. That frosty morning, as he was popping the last piece of marmalade-covered plum pudding into his mouth, there was a knock on the door of Mistletoe Cottage. When he opened the door, he saw that it was the postman. "Hello, Percy," he said. "Come on in out of the cold." "Don't mind if I do," replied Percy. "There's a bit of a nip in the air today." "I've got a letter for you," he added. "And as it has a North Pole postmark, I suppose it's from your uncle." Everybody at the South Pole knows about his famous uncle who lives at the North Pole. "Good old Father Christmas," Mr. Christmas chuckled. "Haven't heard from him for ages." "Well, remarked Percy, thanks for the warm-up. I'd better be off now." Mr. Christmas opened the envelope and read the letter. "Dear nephew," read the letter. "I hope all is well down there. We are busy as usual up here, getting things ready and organised for Christmas, which is one of the reasons I am writing to you. Can you help? Each year I am finding it more and more difficult to get round all those Mr. Men. There seem to be so many of them all over the place, and I was wondering if this year, as a big favour to your old uncle, you could stand in for me. Hoping you can help, your ever-loving uncle, Father Christmas." That very evening, Mr. Christmas put through a long-distance call to North Pole 253. "Hello?" chuckled a rather deep, rumbly voice at the other end of the telephone. "Father Christmas speaking." "Hello, Uncle," Mr. Christmas said. "Your letter arrived this morning, and I'd love to help." "Oh, good for you," the voice rumbled in Mr. Christmas's ear. "If you have a pencil and paper, I'll give you the Mr. Men's names and addresses." "I'd no idea there were so many of them," Mr. Christmas said. "Do you think you can manage?" asked Father Christmas. "I'll lend you a couple of reindeer if you like." "Oh, no," said Mr. Christmas. "I can manage." He read through the list of Mr. Men while he was having supper. "This is going to keep me busy," he said. "First things first," he thought to himself, "and the first thing I need is transport. And the first thing to do if I need transport," he thought as he chewed, "is to talk to the wizard. Wizard Winterbottom." The following morning, he set off to see the wizard. It had been snowing again during the night, and he was quite out of breath by the time he arrived at Wizard Winterbottom's castle. I must say it's the biggest castle he's ever seen. Mind you, it has to be big, because Wizard Winterbottom is a giant, and there, goodness knows how many times taller than me, stood the huge figure of Wizard Winterbottom. "Christmas!" he boomed in a voice that made his head spin. "How nice to see you! Come in, follow me!" "Now," thundered Wizard Winterbottom, "what brings you here on a cold winter's morning like this?" Mr. Christmas told him all about his famous uncle, and all about how he'd been asked to help, and all about the Mr. Men, and all about where they lived, and all about the fact that he needed transport. Special transport. "Humph," retorted the wizard. "Can you help me?" Mr. Christmas asked hopefully. "Yes," he said eventually, "but I can't do anything until the middle of next week." "Thank you very much," Mr. Christmas replied. "Goodbye," he shouted. But Wizard Winterbottom didn't hear him. He was already too busy thinking. Exactly 2 weeks later, Mr. Christmas paid a return visit to the enormous castle. "Hello, Christmas," boomed the giant voice. He took him into his kitchen, lifted him up onto his enormous table, and set him down with a bit of a bump. "There's your transport," said Wizard Winterbottom. "But that's your teapot," Mr. Christmas said in bewilderment. "You've heard of flying saucers?" the wizard laughed. "Well, now you're looking at the world's first flying teapot." "Gosh," Mr. Christmas said, "how does it work?" "Tea bags," came the thunderous reply. "I've put an engine inside the spout. All you do is refuel every 1,000 miles, and you can fly it up to 3 times the speed of sound. They took the flying teapot outside the castle, and Mr. Christmas pressed the start button in great excitement. He zoomed right around the South Pole in no time at all, and landed safely back at the castle. "Well?" said asked Wizard Winterbottom. Mr. Christmas was lost for words. "Found jolly-tastic?" suggested the wizard. Mr. Christmas grinned. "Abso-jolly-lutely," he replied. That evening, he sat down and made a list of Christmas presents for all the Mr. Men. Another list, a very, very long list. He didn't finish until 3 o'clock in the morning. He spent the next week and a half wrapping up all the presents, and almost before he knew it, December 24th arrived, Christmas Eve. "It's going to be a long day," he thought to himself as he packed all the brightly coloured parcels into his flying teapot. It was snowing lightly as he took off from the North Pole. That Christmas Eve was indeed a very long day, and a very long night too, and the moon was just disappearing over the horizon of Loudland when he delivered the last of the presents to Mr. Quiet. He was quite exhausted. Christmas morning dawned, and all over the world, everyone started to open their presents. And let's begin with the presents. At 7 o'clock, Mr. Fussy opened his present. 365 yellow dusters, one for every day of the year. At 7:05, Mr. Small opened his present, which was 1 jelly bean, gift-wrapped, banana-flavoured. A feast. And at 7:10, Mr. Greedy opened his present, a cookery book entitled 1,001 Ways to Roast an Ox. Mr. Greedy licked his lips and rubbed his tummy. At 7:15, Mr. Tall opened his present. Socks, striped socks, the longest, stripiest pair of stretchy socks you've ever seen. At 7:20, Mr. Buddle opened a packet of cornflakes. Funny sort of present, he thought to himself, not noticing his real present. At 7:25, Mr. Mean opened his present. A purse. A very, very small purse. Just small enough not to take any money. At 7:30 exactly, Mr. Forgetful opened his present. Is it my birthday? He thought to himself. At 8:22, Mr. Chatterbox opened his present, a dictionary. How very, 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 very useful, he murmured. At 7:45, Mr. Topsy-Turvy opened his present, a picture. How nice, he said, as he hung it on the wall. Upside down! Looks silly, doesn't it? At 7:50, Mr. Uppity opened his present. A present for the man who was everything. A gold-plated back-scratcher. At 7:55, Mr. Funny opened his present. A book of knock-knock jokes. Knock-knock, who's there? You know the sort of thing. And that's not a joke, by the way. And at 8 o'clock precisely, Mr. Silly opened his present. An electric, fully automatic, instant, digital, computerized thingamajig. What's an electric, fully automatic, instant, digital, computerized thingamajig? I've no idea. Just after 8 o'clock that Christmas morning, the telephone rang. "Hello," rumbled a voice. "Hello," Mr. Christmas answered. "Happy Christmas." "That's me," laughed Father Christmas. "And a happy Christmas to you too." "And that's me too," Mr. Christmas replied. "How did it go?" Father Christmas asked him. "Just got back," Mr. Christmas said. "Me too," sighed Mr. Christmas's uncle wearily. "Had a bit of problem in France," he added. "Got stuck in a chimney." "It's all those mince pies," Mr. Christmas chuckled. And that is the end of Mr. Christmas's story. Well, nearly, almost, not quite. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Mr. Slow finally managed to open his present. 5 o'clock in the afternoon was the time, and the day? New Year's Eve! Wasn't that funny? Yep. What better way to ring off the Mr. Men's celebrations in style than with 100 book readings? Yep. They've been there for 50 years and always will be. And here's to the next 50 years. Cheers from all the Mr. Men and little misses. Oh, and not forgetting to mention, Happy Christmas. And all that.